And no real reason. What's your favorite color? Crimson Rogue. I wonder. Okay, that's mean. Actually, my favorite color kind of changes based on mood. It's usually red. That's kind of my go-to, but I also like a nice shade of green. I look good in black t-shirts, so, you know, black's a good color. And sometimes the right shade of blue, like the metallic blue you might see on some cars. Potato. I'm currently reading through the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. Will that be something you'll cover down the line? Actually, I very well might. I don't know when, but I do kind of want to touch on that because I've seen the movie like 3 times now. I've enjoyed it. I have not yet read the book. I really do need to correct that because, damn it, it looks fun. Potato, why don't you have The Catcher in the Rye? Answer, why don't you have a copy of Micro God? I don't know, I don't have every book in the world. That's really the simplest solution. I prefer to shop at a local used bookstore, and sometimes they just don't have things, or sometimes things just don't come up or on my radar at all. Really, no real reason for it, but, you know. Potato, what's your stance on digital versus physical books? I will always prefer physical books. Now, I'm not opposed to digital as long as people are reading. Hey, that's awesome, good on you. But there's just something fulfilling about having a physical book in hand that you can flip through and enjoy. And also, I don't need to worry about battery life. Potato, when will your next book come out? And will we ever be able to get a paperback or hardback version of either that or your first book? Microgod, I don't know. I hope to someday get that moved up to physical copies instead of just digital. The book I'm working on now, though, is a fantasy novel that I swear will get published in physical copies. It's like that is my life goal at the moment. As far as when that'll happen, I am almost done with the first draft. I just got a few more chapters, like 3 or 4, as of recording this to go, and then hopefully everyone will start talking about how awesome Luminarius is. And yes, that is the title. Potato salad. Oh, a rebel! Well done, sir! Who's your favorite character on Rick Riordan's thus far? That is a good question because I am 1 book away from finishing the Heroes of Olympus, and frankly, everyone is really good. I mean, like, even the insignificant characters like Coach are still very enjoyable. If I absolutely had to pick one, though, I would probably say Percy, just because we've been following him the longest. Although, I mean, really, they all have a lot of great depth and characters, and they all get some great lines in. But yes, Piper is awesome because of terminal velocity hams. Although as far as romance, I gotta say the best one is probably, well, I shouldn't say because of spoilers, but Leo. Potato, since you're in the midst of reviewing a live-action FMA movie, I have to ask the following. What are your top 5 characters in the series and why? Why are you guys making me think so hard on these? Okay, Ed, because he's the main character, obviously. Al, because I watched the series growing up with my brother, and I kind of always just pictured that dynamic between the two of us. Mustang, because he has the most badass powers. Hughes, because it's Hughes. And then I'd probably say Major Armstrong, because on one hand he's totally a badass, on the other hand he's just such good comedy gold. But that was an extremely brief list. Frankly, all the characters have their appeal to certain degrees. You definitely need to check out the series, though. It is great stuff. Potato, have you ever read anything by Simon Elkes? Oh, Elkeles? I'm probably butchering that. No, actually, I'm not familiar with the name, I'm afraid. Potato, what sword are you most proficient with? So, fun fact, I actually used to do a sword club back in college, and we went over all sorts of different methods and stuff, mostly European-style fighting. We all practice with what are called wasters, which are these practice swords, wooden practice swords, mostly in broadsword form. Since I'm one of those assholes who always has to be different, I actually went with these short swords. These were made by a buddy of mine named Sam. She and her dad made these. These are fully combat ready. so I can really whack the hell out of these things and you can't even notice anything wrong with them. I got decent with them, I think. I unfortunately don't have the space to really show off right now, but in addition to this, I went to a dojo at the same time and I practiced under a sensei to learn Heading Gumdo, which is a Korean sword fighting style with katanas. So I got decent at that. As you probably noticed, I am not the most physically fit or towering individual, I guess I could say. So broadswords are, and short swords to a lesser extent, of this type, I should say, are more of a thing for strength fighters, and I am definitely a dex build, as I describe myself. So I would say the katana is my stronger weapon, just because I'm able to move faster and strike quicker than I am strike harder. It's why Crimson's primary sword in the show is a katana. I should do a video showing off of these at some point. Potato, first of all, congratulations on 15,000 subs. Thank you. I would like to know if you use the Goodreads webpage app, and also if you've read Tamir, Triad, and or the Night Runner series. I've not read the books, but I do use Goodreads every once in a while, usually for research purposes if I'm looking up something for a book review. I'm not like signed up or anything. I don't comment on any books or leave any reviews or anything like that. But it is useful to have just some quick like publication and summary information there. Potato, have you ever read the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown or the Riordan Chronicles? I probably way overthought that. No to both, I'm afraid, but again, adding them to the list. Potato, where would you put the Percy Jackson, Kane, and Magnus Chase series on a 1 to 3 based list? 1 being your favorite. Actually, I've not gone to the Kane Chronicles or Magnus Chase series yet, so I'm gonna have to give Percy Jackson a 1 there. If you haven't, which other mythology or mythologies would you like to read about? Actually, I've really been getting into Irish mythology lately. A lot of that started with Secret of the Kells movie that you should definitely check out. It's gorgeous. But also going through brushing on some of the basics with the Iron Druid series shows that there's actually quite a lot of flavor to Irish myth, so that might be fun. Potato, since you love Shakespeare's work so much, are you ever going to do a Book Was Better episode on some adaptations? I might. It would really depend, though, and unfortunately I think that depending upon what I review, a lot of my complaints will be the same. I mean, if you wanted me to review the Kenneth Branagh version of Hamlet, which I really enjoy, I would probably have to say that it's technically a little over-stylized, but at the same time, still really good. I had a purist friend back in college who said that the Mel Gibson version was better, but I don't know. Then there's the Romeo and Juliet modern version with Leonardo DiCaprio, which I couldn't stand because while they updated the visuals, they didn't update any of the language. So you've got people walking around talking about how they have swords and they're pulling out like Glock 19s and aiming at each other, and it's like, you look so dumb. If I were going to review any Shakespeare adaptations, that would probably be top of my list. Potato, I know it's not what you usually do on your channel, but would you ever consider doing something like a retrospective on the Percy Jackson Heroes of Olympus Trials of Apollo series? I am not opposed to them. Actually, I'm thinking I should do something for them because I haven't done any proper From Crimson Library reviews on any of the Heroes of Olympus books. So I'm thinking about doing something special collectively over the brilliance of the series as a whole. So you might see something like that in the future. Potato, you mentioned getting a new house. Is this going to be happening in the foreseeable future, or is that going to be a someday thing? That is well in the future. That is when I actually have money. Right now, you know, we're in a comfortable place. I actually really like this house, and it's in a good part of town. So I don't really see the need to move anytime soon, especially because I have moved almost every year since I left my parents' place, and I want to stop. Books are heavy. and they're not fun to transport between places. Another from Justin Carwin. Potato, can we get FaceTime with your roommates or your girlfriend? Actually, my girlfriend and I recorded a book tour of her place because we're both bibliophiles. So you will be seeing a video of that some point soon. But she's otherwise not really an on-camera personality, as she's put it, so I don't know if you're ever going to get like a direct Q&A with her. Potato, where is your Diversion book series, and are you going to review the 2 movie sequels? I actually do have the Diversion series. It's right here. It's just called The Hunger Games. I actually read the Diversion books and borrowed them from an ex, and don't actually own any of the books myself. I am not opposed to reviewing the sequels though, because the second one had some potential and chose to throw as much of that potential away, and then the third one was just straight up awful. Of course, the book wasn't great, but whatever. 2, are you familiar with the channel Impression Blend? I'm not, but collabs are fun. 3, have you watched Trollhunters animated series on Netflix? I don't know what that is. Should I check it out? Potato, 2 questions. Will we get to meet your girlfriend? No, my girlfriend, get your own! Like I said before, she's not really an on-camera personality, but I'll talk to her, I don't know. And what fantasy novels would you recommend? Let's see, just a cursory glance at what I've got here. The Gone series, Jim Butcher's Dresden Files, Hunger Games, everything by Riordan, George R. R. Martin, the Michael Crichton versions that exist, and the ones that we squeeze into fantasy classifications because you should read them. Iron Druid's good, Pratchett's good, Harry Potter obviously, R.A. Salvatore for younger audiences, you know, that kind of thing. Potato, do you have some historical fiction set up until Victorian times on your immediate reading list, or have some favorites you would recommend? I'm actually not really big on historical fiction. Not opposed to it by any chance, I just don't come across it very often. The closest I think I have, and this came up in conversation with my father a little while ago, was His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik, which is on my top shelf there. Otherwise I'd pull it down for you, and I don't feel like getting up. Potato, is there such a thing as too many books? No, but there is such a thing as not enough bookshelves. Actually, when I run out of space on my bookshelves, I'll just pile books right here where I'm sitting in front of my bookshelves until I build more. And I already have plans on where my next bookshelf is going to be. So it pays to plan ahead. Potato, does it sometimes discourage you that even though you're an awesome YouTuber, thank you, you don't have as many subscribers as other channels? Well, I actually think of it as twofold. Yes, I do wish that I had more subscribers, but I like to think that I have more quality over quantity, because when it comes to the subs I do have, because if you look at other channels, like, and I'm only picking this because this is an easy example, but Mr. Enter, who has like 250,000 subs, I think. If you go over and look at his Patreon, I don't think he's making $100. If you look at me, with the merest fraction of subscribers to him, I'm actually doing much better financially on Patreon than he is. So I've got better fans. And that right there is good enough for me right now. Also, are you going to do a Death Cure book review? Yes, absolutely. My plate's a little full at the moment. We've actually scheduled everything in the foreseeable future until next March. So if I do get to get around to the Death Cure, it's going to be next April at the earliest. But I definitely do want to get to that one. That movie was shockingly good. Potato, favorite myth and favorite Pantheon. My favorite myth is that life is fair and everyone can respect each other. No, more to what you were asking. If I had to pick something, I grew up reading a lot about Greek myths, so I'm kind of leaning towards that. On the other hand, I got more into Norse myth when I was in high school, and frankly, with the recent Thor movies, I think I'm gonna go towards the Norse. Besides their head god isn't some sort of a creepy, rapey bastard fellow, so that helps. Potato, do you have any plans to review the Dresden File books and TV show? I have not seen the series. but I keep hearing bad things about it, so I very well might get around to it. And frankly, enough people have asked for a review on the series that I think... I don't know if that's going to be my first TV series review or if Game of Thrones will be, like the first season. So, we'll see. I don't know, I might put a poll up or something. Potatoes, since you have been published, do you have any recommendations for writers who are in college and want to be published authors? To be fair, I've only self-published the one book, so it's kind of an inflated title. I'm working on getting, like, fully actually published, so give me a couple of months on that. But as far as actually getting published, there are several routes. The easiest way is to self-publish yourself, which is great because you get to keep a lot more money from the book sales. The only problem is you got to do all your own publicity. Now, as far as companies to go with, I went through a group called Book Baby. They were really good. They actually designed the cover for Microgod, which I'm still in love with. It looks so good. The only thing is, you gotta kind of stay on them because if you don't keep bothering them every couple of weeks, they will forget about you. So that's the downside. The quality of work they put out, though, is still really good. So 4 out of 5. Good enough. Potato, have you read Howl's Moving Castle? Is there a group of you? Did you all just get together and say, hey, let's get them to read this one book? Potato, so here's my question. Would you ever consider doing the Metro 2033 series? I've heard many good things about it, again, from the Dishonored Wolf. Yeah, actually, I think I am going to get around to that at some point. I don't know if I'm going to review it, but I do kind of want to read it, so wait and see. Potato, I noticed on this timestamp that you have the first omnibus of the Gortrek and Felix series. I'm curious what you think of them. I've actually never read a Warhammer book before. That book in question is a friend's book that I think he forgot about, so I might have to return that to him. I am a dick. I've heard good things about it, though. Unfortunately, like I've mentioned before, my reading list is about 400 books long, so it's gonna be a while until I can get to all the books I want to get to. Potato, Crimson, I saw the game guides for Warcraft 3 and the expansion. Have you played it? Yes, I did, and I enjoyed it, and it was fun. And then they retconned the shit out of it in World of Warcraft. Potato, what are your favorite Redwall and Tintin books? Tintin, I don't know. It's been a while since I've read any of them. They were all books from my childhood, and I don't actually remember any of the titles off the top of my head. Can I say all of them? I'm gonna cheat and say all of them. As far as Redwall, my favorites in that would probably be Martin the Warrior, because we had so much build up to who Martin the Warrior was supposed to be. To finally see it realized was kind of epic for me as a kid. Potato, what do you think of the works of Brandon Sanderson, and have you read any of them? Only one I've read is the first Alcatraz Misery book, but I do need to work on The Way of Kings and Mistborn. Many of you have commented on how good those are, and I will get to them eventually. Potato, do you have any tips for writing a successful story? The best advice I can give on that is start with fan fiction. Use that to build up your writing skills at first, and then daydream a lot and read a lot. Use that to try to come up with what you think might be a fun story with fun characters. Potato, what's your favorite book that you've gotten out of doing your review show? A better way to put it would be, what book have you enjoyed the most? God, I don't know, actually. Picking your favorite book is like picking your favorite kid, in my opinion. So, I don't know which would be the best. I've gotten plenty of pleasant surprises. Repo Men was... I still hold that opening line to be one of my favorite opening lines of any book, ever. The first time I held a pancreas in my hands, I got an erection. I still remember that. Good stuff. Whiteout was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the psychological element of Endless Love. I'm just reading off of my DVDs, by the way. I have them ordered in the order of my episodes. It was a lot of fun to see where John Carter came from. So that one was very pleasant. Percy Jackson, of course, turned out to be a lot better than I thought it would, and the rest of the series is great. So yeah, that's what I'll go with for that now. Ultimately, I'll probably say Percy Jackson because it led me to the rest of the series. This one forgot to say Potato, but he's curious if I have any interest in reviewing I Am Number 4. Yes, actually enough people have asked about it that I might get around to do it sometime next year. I have been putting that one off longer than I should have, so I've got to correct that one. Potato, what are some fantasy recommendations for someone who's read Lord of the Rings and Wheel of Time? So you're looking for someone with heavier fantasy interests. I'd say move on to Sanderson. Sanderson and I imagine In the Name of the Wind might be worth checking out. Potato, congrats from the UK Crimson, only about another 64 million subs to go before you're on top. So close. Recently I've thought of expanding my collection with a new bookcase, but I haven't quite been able to get out of the habit of buying fantasy novels, and I want to broaden the spectrum a little, maybe add some especially mysterious murder mysteries. Do you have any suggestions? I actually don't really go into murder mysteries that much. I've got the occasional crime drama. If you're going to count legal thrillers, I'd recommend anything by John Grisham, or actually even better, The 500 by Matthew Quirk. This one has legal drama and murder and corruption, and it's set locally, so I know a lot of the nearby places, so that's fun for me. This is basically if John Grisham did a bunch of cocaine. Not exactly a murder mystery, but I don't really have any murder mysteries to recommend, so this is the closest thing I got otherwise, sorry. Over the years, I've amassed quite the amount of notes, and me and my awful organization skills are finding trouble trying to figure out how to bring order to it all. Do you have any ideas besides throwing it all in a big box for eternity? You saw my book tour. Do you think I have any semblance of organization skills? I used to have my Jane Austen next to my George Carlin. I don't know what I'm doing here. I mean, the only other thing you can do there is go digital and put them on a laptop or tablet or something. Potato, do you have any recommendations for lesser known urban fantasy series? I am not a fan of urban fantasy because most of the time it turns out to be people falling in love with vampires. And I'm tired of that. I'm very tired of that. The only exception to that being the Dresden Files and the Iron Druid series, so there you go. That's unfortunately the best I've got. And so far, not much in the way of romance. So, but I'm only 2 books into both of those series, so don't quote me on that. Potato, a couple of questions actually. First, what is your favorite book in the Percy Jackson and Heroes of Olympus series respectively? I would say The Lost Hero because it introduces several new characters. Very well done, has this whole new adventure unlocking a level of myth that I didn't know existed in Greek mythology, which was very exciting for me. Also, it's called The Lost Hero because Percy's nowhere to be found. So a lot of the mystery is, where the hell did Percy go? Very clever on Riordan's part, so I'd probably say that, but I do have 1 book to go in the series, so that one's got an asterisk on it. Would you suggest H.P. Lovecraft to read, and if so, which book should I start with? I unfortunately have not read any of Lovecraft yet. My editor might actually be able to answer that better. I know he's read at least some of Lovecraft, so I'll try to move that onto him, see if he can answer for it in the comments for you. And final question, have you ever played D&D or any tabletop role-playing games in general? Not only have I played it, I have DM'd a few times. I have played Pathfinder 3.5, 4, Shadowrun, and I forget what the actual title was, but there was a Star Wars version we were playing for a little while. I have DM'd 3 Pathfinder games. Preferred class is the Ranger, because you get all the badassery of being a magic archer, and you get a free puppy companion, and I always name him Shadow, because that's a good wolf name. Potato, have you read any of Raymond E. Feist's works? I'm afraid not. And finally, Potato, why are you not impressed by James Dashner? Short version, and I will go over more of this in the Death Cure review, but short version is when you're writing a story, eventually your characters take on a life of their own and they start making their own decisions. Effectively, it's this weird tick that authors notice. The problem is, I don't think Dashner ever let his characters really evolve and make their own decisions. He always had to, it felt like he always had to control them in every aspect of everything they did, and it just didn't let the plot evolve naturally. And unfortunately that had an impact because the characters didn't feel as real, so I wasn't able to really get as invested in the story, especially not in the third one. The third one just completely fell apart for me. So that does it for this Q&A. Thank you everyone who submitted a question and who keeps supporting the channel. You guys are the reason this show keeps improving. Hopefully we can do something like this again in another milestone video. We'll just need to see how quickly we climb up the subscriber count. We've got a lot of things planned for the channel later on. I am going to try to push it to doing 2 videos a week pretty soon. So look forward to that. Hopefully I can do something interesting. Another big thanks to everyone who supports the channel, however you do it, and we'll see you in the next video.